This is the Extended Gamut Podcast, the podcast for printing professionals. We explore trending topics, meet with industry experts, and take your questions. Today, we've got some new printers to talk about, so stay tuned. Okay, here we are. It's podcast time. Winter's almost over in Chicago.
No.
Groundhog Day.
We're just getting started.
It went well. If he does see a shadow, it actually means it was sunny that day and winter will continue, which seems backwards. And if it's cloudy and he doesn't see a shadow and runs back into his hole, then summer's right around the corner.
It's been beautiful last week, but I feel like it's a trend.
Yeah. I think something to celebrate is there is a trophy here at the table. This is the first place trophy for our work fantasy football league. I got back into fantasy football after retiring for a few years and won. And right after I won, I bought myself a trophy and put it in my office.
It's a nice trophy.
It is nice. We're going to make it a traveling trophy as long as I keep winning. Otherwise, you have to get a different trophy every time.
I'm really pleased with your performance this year.
I beat you.
Yeah, my team, the Loafers, were very bad.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries, but can't make excuses. We move on.
So End Zone Voyagers, the team I manage and own, we won. So there's that. But today we're going to talk about printers, right?
Yep.
You might be wondering why I have this blue tape on my water bottle. You know, we're not officially sponsored, but I feel like that's what really popular shows do, is they have to put tape on things so that you can't see the actual brand. So if you're watching this podcast, that's why I've covered my Kirkland bottle of water.
Costco coming in for us.
All right, so on to printing. That's why people listen to this. I think we're going to talk about some new print technology that's out there. What are the printers we're going to talk about today?
3 printers, I think, right? 2 Aqueous printers and a DTG printer.
Cool.
So where should we start? Should we do a DTG sandwich?
Yeah, let's go. Aqueous, water-based printers, pigment, and we'll put the t-shirt printer in the middle.
Okay.
Let's start with EPSON.
Let's start with EPSON. So the one that we're going to, just started shipping. We just came back from West Coast Art and Frame in Las Vegas, and we were displaying this printer there. It's a 17-inch kind of desktop P5370.
Okay.
So they're top of the line, top trim for a desktop printer, right? So they have printers. If you go to Best Buy, you see a lot of Epson printers, all desktop printers. This is for the most discerning photographer. So 12 colors, super image quality, new print head. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
And this printer's been around for a while. At least they keep improving it. But there was. So before the 5370, it was the P5000. Before the P5000 was the 4900, which is really popular. Before the 4900 was the 4880. For the 4880, now, oh man, we're getting into the early
4800, and before that, the 4000. Yeah. So 20 years.
20 years of printing.
And they've this segment of like a 17-inch printer, but with larger ink cartridges, more robust. They've really kind of owned this segment.
Yeah. So if someone's listening and wondering what the differences are, maybe we just touch on some of the main differences or things that are important as we see it.
Yeah, between the 5000, which it replaces. So P5000 has been around since 2017, so it's had a good long run. And so this new printer adds an ink channel, which is nice because previously you've had to choose between a violet ink and a light black ink.
Okay.
Now you get both. And you will also have both the matte black and photo black on board, in line, on demand, without having to switch between them.
And the P5000 didn't have that.
No.
I mean, it had matte black, it had a glossy or photo, but you had to manually do something?
It had to switch between the lines, and use ink to do that.
Now, based on the paper you're saying you're using, the printer will automatically switch between those.
Right. And it doesn't have to switch. We'll just use the right one, but doesn't have to switch anything because both are in line and ready.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's something from a usability standpoint will be nice for a lot of people.
New printhead?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say next. So it's new printhead. It's the one that is in the P900 now. One of the common complaints that you hear with the 4900, before the 5000 is, it's a great printer, but when I don't use it, it gets clogged.
Okay.
And so this new printhead has some film laminate that helps with that. It's been really good on the P900. So should help with people who are using the printer less consistently, just to keep the nozzles firing and clean.
I noticed that when they talk about picoliters, that's the size of the ink drop. So the smaller the picoliter, the more fine the dot. So when you think about printers that aren't as concerned with quality, you might have something that has a 6 picoliter, 10 picoliter.
Yeah.
Right. And this one has, I think it was 1.5.
Yeah. Tiny.
So different from a gauge in like an earring. The smaller the gauge, the bigger.
You lost
the
me
steel, the earring.
Yeah.
Belly button ring.
Yeah.
Did I get you back?
No.
All right. So it has a 1.5 picoliter, which is very small, which is going to allow for better print quality.
Yeah. Finer details, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So we have the 5370. It's new. Replaces the 5000. Dedicated channels for the matte black and glossy. Auto switching. New print head. It's shipping.
Shipping now. Yep. One thing to note is Epson will keep selling the P5000 SpectroProofer. So
that's the commercial edition?
Commercial edition with the proof, with the Spectro on the front.
Okay.
So for people who are in a proofing environment, that's going to stay consistent. It's a super popular printer for that. So that will still be available.
Okay. So that's a new printer and it's priced just under $2,000.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about, it's not something you're going to pick up at Best Buy, but it's not a $5,000 printer. This is the top of the line desktop printer, 17 inches. You can put a roll on it. You can do sheets, 17 by 22. A great little printer.
Great little printer.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's our first printer.
So now we're doing DTG, right?
Should we talk about DTG next?
Let's do it.
Or do you want to talk about your new addiction to sports gambling?
Oh, I wouldn't say it's an addiction.
No, you've gotten into it. I'm yet to download an app or do any betting with sports.
I know I think you know yourself well.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be good for you.
I've never had a gambling problem.
No.
What I do like
It's money.
take. That's true.
In my defense.
Yeah, give us a quick summary and then we'll move on before people tune out.
All of these sports gambling apps are like trying to get as much market share, get as many customers as they possibly can.
Okay.
And in doing that, they're just giving away free bonuses, free whatever.
Good.
Yep. And they're going to hook me and they're going to try and take all my money. But I'm not going to let that happen.
You're going to beat the system. Figured it out.
I'm going to beat the system. I'm not greedy. I just bet a little bit at a time. I take that free money. I don't need to make a lot of money. Just, 1,000 here. No, it's $5 bets. And Yeah, I enjoy it. It keeps my attention. I enjoyed the Super Bowl a little differently because I had a bunch of small bets out there.
Yeah.
That's all.
What's the greatest success story you've had? Something wild you've done. You bet $5 and won 6?
No, what like first got me into it is the first week of NFL football this year. They did a parlay where it's like the top 4 touchdown scores from last year. They said if they all score, whatever you get, it's a big payout. So I think I bet $5 and I won 180.
Wow.
Which was that like scratches that itch, and you're like, okay.
So then you had 180 to continue betting.
Yeah.
But you keep them at $5.
10. It's whatever they allow for these promos.
Yeah.
Because they won't let you bet too much.
Can you bet on pickleball?
Maybe.
Yeah, all right. That's your homework. Is pickleball betting available?
Okay.
Because that could definitely be something that I should get into. Or should not get into.
Yeah.
All right. Epson F1070. That's their new DTG printer.
Yep.
So right now, Epson has quick history if people don't know anything about t-shirt printing. Epson got into this market with the F2000 t-shirt printer. They improved upon the F2000 and came out with the F2100. After the F2100, they got into a model that sits above the F2100, which was called the F30. This is production. This is, let's say, 3x the cost of the F2100, a little larger form factor. And then they replaced the F2100 with the F2270. So as it was before this printer, there was a printer that's the F2270 that everyone, right in the, $15,000 range. And then there's the F30 at the, let's say, $50,000 range that's production and can replace 3 of your F2270s. And now Epson is entering a space below the $15,000 printer, which is the F1070. And that's the printer that we're going to talk about a little bit here.
Yep. Yeah. Now the lowest cost of entry into t-shirt printing with Epson.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about this printer. It's what's the price point?
Under $7,000.
Okay.
So big step for Epson to go from, I think it's 17,000 is a list, like the price before promos, down to 7,000. So it opens up a whole new market of people that could afford to try a new business, maybe it's some new offerings within an existing business, but yeah. So it's really an untapped market for Epson, I think.
Okay.
So in that same like thought process and vein, like they've tried to make this very user friendly because they have geared it towards that type of client, right?
Right.
So simple to use, contained, made to be run in an office or home type environment. Very user intuitive, not a lot of bells and whistles to have to figure out, not a lot of troubleshooting in terms of like, how does this work? What, adjusting heights, or it's doing all that for you.
Okay. One thing that was interesting to people a lot of times when it comes to printers is how fast is this printer? How many shirts an hour can I print? Well, how would you approach that question with this printer, or what are we hearing?
Yeah. So if you're asking about the shirts per hour, then this probably isn't the printer for you. Like this isn't meant to produce a lot of shirts or on a time deadline. It's meant to be able to do some shirts when you need them. Have good quality, but not a production type printer. So it's about 10 shirts an hour, but they're thinking you're printing like 100 shirts in a month, something like that. Not, all day. We have the F3070. If you're hustling, you need 2 printers to do 100 shirts an hour.
Yeah.
So,
is there another cool feature I saw was it's completely enclosed, whereas right now the t-shirt printer takes the t-shirt and brings it inside the unit, but it's still a little open. This is going to be completely enclosed.
Yeah. So the platen is fixed. It stays where it is, and and the print head moves over the top of it. So you're limited to 10 by 12 max print area on the garment, but that covers, you know, the majority of what people are printing on shirts anyways. So yeah, I think it'll be a good, we'll find out. We'll see if the market, I think the value is there, right? It's really well priced compared to alternatives that don't have the same quality, don't have the same service, don't have the same support, don't have the same reputation. So now EPSON comes to play in a price point that I think they will do really well.
All right, cool.
We'll also do film printing, just
Oh yeah, the direct to film.
a big thing. So being able to put sheets of film on and seamlessly go between shirts and film and back. So
Okay.
if you're listening to the podcast and this is for the printing professional, then you either have a DTG apparel garment decorating business already, and this would be the printer if you have, you know, if you're doing screen printing and you just want to try out, or you're doing you know, embroidery but you just want to try out, or if you have a sign shop and you think, well, I could probably sell a couple shirts here and there if I could print them on demand and capture that business. So those are the kind of the two types of customer EPSON is targeting with this printer.
Yeah. And I mean, they're coming after that maker market. They're calling it a desktop or bench top, you know, unit. And I mean, they did this at Printing United. You know, they gave a little preview of this printer plus a UV printer that they're going to be coming out with that sort of sits in that market of, I don't know if I'd say Etsy, but things, you know, people from like Etsy or people that have what you call a side gig. Maybe they have a full-time job, but they want to start something, or they're going to put this in a garage or a craft room. So it'll be interesting how this sort of plays out over the next year.
Yeah, I see it as a couple good bets hit, and then I could be DTG printing pretty quickly here.
Couple parlays, couple $5 bets, and you are set, my man. All right, so that's the t-shirt printer. So we talked about the EPSON P5370. That's a 17-inch. We talked about the EPSON F1070, which is DTG on that desktop or, you know, entry level. And let's move into, should we move into Bitcoin? How's Bitcoin going?
Right now, Bitcoin's doing great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're committed. You have a vision for Bitcoin.
I do. I didn't know we were getting into this. I feel like if you, this is not financial advice.
We've talked about these things, Andy. Fantasy football, sports gambling, Bitcoin. Those were things we promised the listeners.
Oh yeah, ask about. They're. Well, I mean, if we've promised it, if I were a person who didn't own Bitcoin yet, I would feel pretty good about buying it right now.
Yeah.
With all the things going on.
So are you like so Bitcoin, but then there's all these other coins. You're like saying Bitcoin is the standard.
Bitcoin is the thing.
Dogecoin, no?
No Dogecoin. This is a very big topic, so I don't know that we can cover it between printer segments.
Okay.
But
that'll be a different podcast.
Yeah.
We'll just set up multiple studios and we'll just go from podcast to podcast. But
maybe we just change that sign out.
That would be much more efficient. Good idea. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Canon. So they announced some new printers, again on the what we call the photo side. So this is Aqueous. So it's using water to carry the ink pigment, but these are archival printers.
Yep.
Used for printing, and it would be indoor primarily, or really short term, 30-day to 90-day outdoor, maybe like you see at a grocery store.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So similar to the market that the P5370 addresses, it's that artwork, photographic, indoor. And this is a whole refresh of their line of printers. Not similar to the P5370 where it builds on the same base of a successful printer over 20 years. It's not 20 years, but this PROGRAF line has had a similar body style, similar shape and form factor. And this is a changing of what's inside the printer, specifically the inks and how they formulate the different channels, but not a total revamp of a new printer.
Okay.
So they have taken their Pro line, so what was the Pro 6100 and 4100 and 2100, and they now will be called the Pro 6600, 4600, and 2600. So 24 inch, 44 inch, 60 inch. And they've reformulated the ink. So every ink within the system is reformulated except for the matte black ink. So 12 inks.
Okay.
All reformulated. The same ink names as you're used to, but different inks inside of the cartridge.
Okay.
They've added a wax to the ink, which is pretty interesting. We don't have our printers yet, so we can't speak to, the difference with this wax, but it's supposed to help with scratch resistance and abrasion resistance, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Make the inks more slippery, I think is what they said, which I don't know. It is a common complaint with aqueous prints, especially on like fine art type media.
Yeah.
It's like you print this beautiful print, and when you're handling it, it takes one fingernail to cause a streak on the surface. So we'll see if that is better.
I saw a couple of things that aren't maybe related to print quality. When we were in Vegas a week or so ago, there was a unit there in Canon's booth.
Yeah.
And so ours hasn't arrived yet, so we haven't had a chance to play with it and test it. But they did a couple things that have nothing to do with printing, but sometimes they're important to users. And years ago, EPSON on their S series, one of the improvements they made was like a light, and there was a button, and then you could like see inside the printer, and it was like, doesn't do anything for the printer, but at the same time, it was a feature. So I noticed that Canon added a light on the inside. And then they also were talking about these translucent covers to help you see the paper and the ink levels, which, I mean, those are little things, but if it's your only printer and those could be, it's something different.
It's all the little things that make the printer more usable and more, just...
It's like on the car, those are cars where you open the door and the logo of the car shows onto the ground. If you've seen that.
Yeah.
I put it in that category.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Maybe we get them to start projecting the Canon logo in front of the printer.
Yeah. Ideas. Maybe they already have those ideas. So
that's the 12 color.
Yeah. Reformatted ink. It's archival. They talked about the black density to give you a wider gamut in terms of like dark colors, the scratch resistance like you were talking about.
Yep.
And they did some stuff with color calibration just to make sure, your output is color consistent over time, like across multiple devices. So that was something on the Pro side.
Yep.
And then they have were you going to say something?
No, I was going to, I think the biggest change within this line then is how so what used to be called the Pro 6100S. So when they put an S at the end of that, it was an 8-color printer, right? 8-color printer. And they've renamed it to the GP line. So GP was the fluorescent ink printers, GP 2000, 4000.
Yeah. Radiant infusion.
Yep. So for this punchy pink fluorescent type ink set. So large gamut,
That's now the GP.
And that's the GP.
Which was out.
Yeah.
But yeah, back they had the S, which they said I think stood for speed, meaning it's faster, but it didn't have the color gamut. Then they renamed it GP, and now this is a new.
Yeah, so there was a GP line, but now there is a new printer within the GP line, and it is what was formerly the S line. So it's kind of confusing. If you think of like the S previously, 6100S, you just removed inks from the 6100. So the 6100 had 12 inks. This one, you took away some of the inks. And in the new GP
6600S and
6600S,
4600S, right?
It's not just removing inks. It's actually adding in, it's actually taking the printhead itself and mirroring them so that the inks come out bidirectionally in both directions in the same order. So for faster print speed and better quality at speed.
Okay.
So it will be interesting. So you add an orange ink and you pick up speed. So geared more at graphics and less at photography. You won't have the levels of gray ink that you have with the 12 color version. You won't have the light tinted cyan and magenta, but you do have this punchy orange ink, and you pick up a lot of speed by the way that they lay out the print head.
And you said it was a 4600S and a 6600S on the GP side. So that would mean that's a 44-inch and a 60-inch.
Correct.
But currently, isn't there a GP 2000?
Yes, and that sticks around.
Okay, so that's the 24-inch. So there isn't a new version of the 24-inch.
That's right.
Okay.
And that GP 2000 and 4000, which are 10 color printers, they stick around.
They stick around.
Unchanged.
Okay, so there will be a GP 4000 and also a GP 4600S.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that has new inks, except the orange isn't new and the matte black isn't new in terms of the formulation of the ink.
Right. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we go super deep on this so that people that are really coming for printing, not just, following us.
Well, didn't we weed out all those people with all the nonsense we've talked about?
That's true.
So far? Yeah. No, it's a tough thing to discuss on a podcast because it's better graphically to see how the inks, what's new, what's the model numbers. So we will be doing a video that we can show all of that,
Yeah.
But
good. Well, I mean, it's fun when there's new stuff, new technology. Companies are always making new printers, and it just keeps it putting lights in them. So we talked about the Epson P5370. We talked about the F1070, which is the direct-to-garment printer from Epson, and we talked about this new Canon lineup. So I think that's good for this episode. We're looking forward to some more new printers, some travel, some trade shows, and maybe some new guests. We have some guests lined up for some future podcasts. So
yeah, I feel like our episodes are best when we speak as little as possible. So I think the more guests we can have on there, the better.
There you go.
Like if we could just kick it off and then monologue.
Yeah.
Probably be our best episode.
Maybe.
Well, we're playing around with the idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap things up for this episode of the Extended Gamut. Hopefully you learned a few things and enjoyed our conversation, some of the topics. You can find us on all the usual platforms. Let us know if there's topics you want to talk about. Subscribe, share, and we will see you next time. Thanks.